Right.
getting it from Teams out is not super fun. Awesome. So for the agenda, if you guys should all have access to the minutes. If you guys want to edit anything that you want to talk about, it's kind of been a busy week for a lot of folks. So we'll please add yourself if you're not in the attendees list. This is copied over from last time, so I'm sure it's not accurate.
Okay.
So open it up. Is there anything that folks would really like to talk about today in particular?
I have some updates about the security insights, and so
Cool.
just to align the team on this topic.
Why ML? Do we have new friends first?
Thank you, David.
No new friends?
Looks like we do.
Hi,
Go ahead, please.
I've been listening and learning and lurking in the Slack for a while, and I'm here to continue to do that. I'll be quiet and just absorb and get the lay of the land. Thanks.
Terrific. Welcome.
Hello,
You're
welcome.
welcome, and you don't have to stay quiet, really.
Hello, everyone. Name's David. I'm from Red Hat. I've been joining a couple of other interesting working groups. I think this one aligns with what I want to see happening the most. Work as a threat modeler, and I think the work in this working group is really interesting. I'll be sitting in the back for the time being, listening and learning, as I need to do a bit of catch up. But please, really pleased to meet you all.
Perfect.
Hello, everyone. Yes, this is Alex Kim from IBM. Also, second time joining. Sorry, I couldn't make my camera work again. The first time I denied it, and second time I couldn't enable it unless I joined back. So, but nice to meet you, and just listening also. I am working on other Linux Foundation projects and Open Mainframe project as well. So, be interested in learning about all the security aspects. So, thank you.
Did I hear Open Mainframe project?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I was just asked to give a presentation to their upcoming thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know security. I know a lot less about mainframes. I can spell them. So maybe you can later on give me some insight on anything that's special or different regarding the mainframe versus other worlds.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, David, I'd love to. And John Murtek, probably you work with him, right? So, and we have a huge interest on, OpenSSF.
Yeah, the person I'm talking with, John Murdoch at Linux
Yes.
Foundation, but I'm sure there's other folks too.
Yeah, I worked with John from the beginning. So, yeah, he's a great guy. Thank you.
So I'm going to repost in the chat the basically what we do is we use a Google Doc so we can take notes as we go. The plan is to eventually convert those over to Markdown files on GitHub for keeping records, but it's a lot easier during the meeting to just edit as you go to take notes.
Although I heard that Google Docs just announced support for Markdown as a writing format, which seems pretty cool.
What?
Yeah,
really?
Yes, and it's
According to
about
Twitter.
time.
As in, it can export Markdown, or what?
No,
do they mean by-
I'm hoping it means you type like # space foo and you get a thing. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you can always type into a Google Doc the Markdown text, but I presume that's not what they mean here. Okay. That sounds relevant to everybody. So,
I guess it's like a HackMD competitor now.
Okay. I will now have to learn more. You have added to my list of things I need to learn.
Okay, so if anybody has anything they want to talk about, just add to the notes. We'll get to it as quick as we can. Luigi, Security Insights, floor is yours. You're on mute though.
Sorry, thank you. Yes, I have proposed in the scorecard channel the security insights standard. They were very positive to the proposal, so they suggested me to join a meeting, the CNCF Cloud Native Foundation. I don't remember the entire name. Tag meeting. It is unfortunately there is an overlap between their meeting and our one. So I will present the Security Insight project as part of this working group on 13 April in their meeting. I have prepared the presentation. It is almost done, I think, honestly. I shared the public link here, but the link is public. Yes, it is public now. It is in the chat, in the Microsoft Team chat. And I have added a slide for a sort of roadmap because, my concern is that this project can fail, especially for a communication or coordination problem. So I have proposed a roadmap that should involve a different team. So it would be very important, in my opinion, receive feedback from my working group, but also from them, of course, because probably to be sure that the standard doesn't fail on the first month, we need to be sure that some important open source project adopt it quite soon. And probably in this moment, OpenSSF is in the best moment to propose a similar standard, because we have the Alpha Omega project, especially for the Alpha project. We have 100 open source projects that are in contact with us. We have the scorecard that can use partially or totally, according to the developer choose, the security insights. And in this way, we can launch it with a public communication also and align people on this standard. It seems to be, I have just tweeted quickly to try to collect some feedback from the community. Of course, it is my community. Everyone has own group of followers, but both on LinkedIn and on Twitter, a very small group of people answered to the survey, and they say that yes, they want to have a sort of security.txt for open source projects. So I think that a similar file can be helpful for everyone, not just for a developer or company, but it can help people. So I will present in 2 weeks, 1 week or 2 weeks, between 2 weeks to the CNCF tag meeting, and we try to convince people about this. I have still some improvements that I would like to implement, in particular, and in scope and out of scope for the security for the VDP that is directly inside the YAML file, and a link to the code of conduct, because I think that is important in the open source. And so it's not related to security, maybe, or maybe yes, if we think security not just about the code. But yes, it was a good feedback. So I will add these 2 things before presenting the project.
Luigi, would you like to do a dry run of the deck here today? Not to put you on the spot, but if you want to.
Show the deck now?
If you'd like.
Yes, of course. Yes, quickly, but yes, I think it is a good idea.
You should be able to just share. If not,
I need to check if I need to restart, because I am on Mac. Maybe I need to restart the laptop.
Do you want to do that, and we'll continue, but we'll make sure we have enough time.
Yeah, I will note that I'm on a Mac, and it worked for me. So I clicked, and it. It's not full screen, but I don't think that matters.
He's already gone.
You have to do the permissions for each app to be able to share, and then you have to restart the app. And so you've probably done that before, David.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, if you want, I can share quickly the presentation.
Sure.
I can try again. Okay, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, and the first slide is literally the presentation of the format of the standard. So there is on the right the YAML example. It is not complete, of course, because it is too long, but here is the first how people view it. And I try to explain which information we would like to have in this YAML file, like, for example, security and why we want to have it. So, for example, we want to have security MD link or security policy link in the YAML, and other important information related to the security, for example, if they have penetration testing or similar.
Yeah, Luigi,
Luigi, yes.
Stop. Can you go back? I want to make one comment. No, previous. Yeah, right. The second, the subtitle there, the security.txt for open source projects. I think what you should emphasize is the machine readable security.txt.
Okay.
I'm not even sure this is specific for open source projects, to be honest with you. It's the machine readable security.txt format.
Okay.
I don't think a lot of this is really specific to open source, to be honest. I would just say the machine readable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a good point, yes.
But I think, you know, we know if it's the security.txt file, what's the difference? It's the machine readability that you really need to beat on.
Yes.
Okay.
You are right.
You don't need to edit right now, but I just think, you know.
Yeah, but just to remind to myself.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Thank you. So in the second slide, I try to present the reason. So why we are working on this file. There are 5 bullet points. Well, we have seen that security.txt, that is a sort of machine readable standard, was helpful for to collect information. For example, there are more than one website that offers sort of database containing security of that website. We have seen that open source organization and project already have tried to implement similar format, especially human readable file, but there is no standard. So we have some project that add the security policy in the GitHub profile, other project that add the security MD, or external security policy in the organization website, for example, Eclipse. Then we have seen that scorecard result, I am saying scorecard, but scanner results are important, of course, because they can help people to monitor open source project. They can help company, open source oriented company, to monitor their project. And so false positive are a problem, and a lot of scanners have a lot of false positive. So if we can help the scanner to reduce this false positive, or to give more information, more context, maybe we can help the community. And in addition, a similar file that is machine readable can help company or people or organization to create database, that people can use, that can use using API endpoint, for example, okay, a sort of ecosystem and infrastructure of information well ordered, that at the moment it is missing because it's not so easy to automate this information collection. And in addition, it will be a standard that is independent by the platform. So you don't need to have a feature on GitLab or GitHub, especially because we don't know what is the next big platform for open source project or for just projects. So it is important that this standard is independent or not dependent by the platform, for example. I have created this slide for the use case. There are more use cases in the README of the project. For space reason, I have just added some of them. So there are 3 use cases for the final user, classic use case. So I want to know which tool are used to lint or scan the code, and which are the security processes in place, so I can evaluate the security. or I want to read a security policy so that I can easily know the security practice in place. Also, for the security researcher, I want to report a potential vulnerability so that the project maintainers may be aware of it. So I have listed some use case where the subject is different for, I mean, there are 4 different subjects. I have identified this one, and just to show that it's not just for the developer.
Another use case for this is to evaluate project sustainability. I've seen work related to chaos on measuring that, and this definitely would be useful.
I can add for sure in the README. I don't know if I have space, but I can change the project sustainability.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Okay, I don't know how to write it in English, but I can correct it in a second moment. Okay, thank you. It is a good feedback, and probably I will remove this one that is a sort of a duplicate of this one. And yes, here I present the risk of this project. It is a threat model, definitely. It is based on Stride, more or less. So what are the risks related to this file? How malicious user can abuse it? We have unfortunately, we have a supply chain attack in the security insight YAML, because if you link to a third-party, if you link to a third-party service and the attacker obtain the access to the third-party service, they can change the information in the same link. So this is technically a supply chain attack or something similar. Then, of course, there are false information. So people that try to add false information for a lot of reasons, but especially maybe because they want to achieve a good result in the scanner. Another risk is related to private information sharing. So a maintainer for error, just for mistake, share private information, for example, as a zero-day disclosure. Or a penetration testing result before the patching. And it's not easy to mitigate this, because when an information is public for a few minutes on GitHub, probably there is a scanner that have created a copy of that page. So from this perspective, it's not easy to mitigate it. Of course, it is. If it is a vulnerability, you can just fix it, but it is a sort of emergency. And then there are the malicious pull requests. So malicious user that try to push a malicious pull request inside the security insight file. So I try to give to share a sort of threat model about this project, especially because if we want to convince Scorecard team to work using it, we need to be sure that they have the right visibility on the risk, so they can also decide how to trust this file, which information they want to collect, and similar. Failure risk, it is another important part, because we have seen that open source project organizations have already tried to define a sort of standard, but they have failed. There isn't a standard. So the point is that we want to try to create a standard for the community. This means that people need to adopt this file, need to use it, and this is the main risk. So we need to convince maintainer to add these files in the repo, in their project. So for the reason we need to maintain it easy as much as possible, of course, but at the same time, usually people follow other people. So if the most important project decide to implement this standard, probably also medium projects, small projects start to work on it. They can read it, they can see how it works, and they can decide to implement it. And another, it's not a failure risk, but it is a concern, of course. So if the scanner developer, like Scorecard, but not only, there are a lot of scanner, decide that the security insight is not trustable, or they cannot trust to the standard because there are too high risk. Of course, they can decide to not implement any feature in the scanner to use or to collect the information in the security insight, and at the end, maybe it's not so helpful. So for this reason, I have prepared a threat model also to convince people that, okay, we have some risk, but generally low, and we can mitigate in some way. And in this way, we can convince developer to use the information that are contained in the file. The roadmap, because if the adoption is the main risk for the project, having a good communication and coordination is important. I think that OpenSSF is in a good moment and to present a similar standard, but we need to be coordinated. So we need to be sure that when we launch the YAML, some of the most important open source projects already have it in place. Better if we can offer a web page where you can easily generate the file, or in the best scenario, we should provide an open source CLI tool to generate and check the YAML. And we need to start to implement it in the OpenSSF repo, and in the best scenario, of course, in some alpha open source project. This is a roadmap. Sorry.
By alpha, you mean the Alpha Omega projects? Is that what you have in mind?
Yes, the Alpha Omega.
Okay.
I have
Thank you. Thank you. You answered it.
Okay, sorry. And that is. So I think I have presented the entire slide. Thank you for the time.
Yes. Yeah, and I put in a comment about one of your threats, the whole false information, which I think is important. But also, I think it's important to note, probably in both the project and the slides, is that another countermeasure is because this is in the project's repository, it's pretty much certainly going to be version controlled, which means that you know who submitted the false information and when.
Yes, I can.
And that also can operate as a countermeasure.
Yes, I agree. I need to add it in the threat model because it is not a mitigation, but you can still monitor who is the actor. And yes, definitely.
I think it's a mitigation.
Okay.
Mitigation doesn't mean it prevents it, but it does provide a disincentive to do it, particularly in projects where there's multiple developers. I mean, if it's a single person developer, that's a different issue.
Yes, different. It's true. Okay, and that is, if it sounds good to you in general, and I will present it, I will try to convince the other team to work on it, and then we just to understand how to coordinate people. So David, Michael, your help is very appreciated for that part. You are mute, Michael.
Always. Are there things that you need specifically? So you mentioned things like the whether it's a CLI or a web page wizard or something to generate or validate the YAML. If you're looking for specific help on those, let's throw that out.
Yes,
to this work group, others,
Yes, I mean, for our working group, probably the two most important part are communicate with the Alpha project. And probably you are the right contact, and and if we can create a small web page where people can generate or read the YAML file, it could be probably helpful. I am not a JavaScript developer, so probably I need help for that part. But it should not to be so difficult because we have the YAML template, so I think that it is okay.
Yeah. I would assume, given the file that's been created, there should be a way to validate at least the format. Not verifying the information, but just hey, is this a YAML file? Does it conform with the spec?
We have that code for security reviews. It's not super.
Yes, exactly. It is. I mean, it's just an helper. It's not. It's don't test. The scorecard can test the information or some information, of course.
Right. It's just somewhere we need to make that quickly, easily done, so that if there's a problem, here it is, with hopefully minimal work by the folks.
Yep. Luigi, is there a YAML schema?
Yes, there is a YAML schema. And
Yeah,
there are
so
also
it's
the
just
regex in the
validating
yellow
the
schema.
schema.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
That should
right.
be easy
That's
to
all I'm saying.
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah, we just need to, if nothing else, we need simple instruction. We need instructions on how to do a validation.
Yes, I think that you need this one probably because wait.
But I do think that for any kind of larger adoption, it needs to be kind of a web page with click here and like, oh, tell me about your thing, and drop down like a wizard.
Exactly.
Bob.
Yes, so in the schema there are also some regex. So technically the YAML can, or the schema can already check not everything, but a lot of stuff.
Right. In the short term, I would say just put somewhere on a page, run this line, install this package, run this line. Eventually it would be good to have a little web page to do it. But even if it's just follow these directions, I mean, I know I can validate YAML. I got to go hunt up the stuff. If you give me something I can copy and paste, the odds of me doing it go up.
Yep.
And I'm sure I'm not the only lazy person.
Awesome. Thank you. Any other questions or anything for Luigi? Good. Moving on. Thank you. Moving on. Quick Alpha Omega update. Hiring we're starting interviews. We have some phone screens that we're reaching out to folks hopefully this week. So that's good. We have a couple promising candidates. So I'm happy about that. But if you have folks that great time to refer them. The links are there. So it's a lead PM who is effectively going to be the, let's say, product manager, product owner, program manager, the face of Alpha Omega. They're going to be accountable full time for driving the project forward. As software engineer who is going to be responsible for the tech stack that does particularly the Omega analysis and rule refinement and all of that, and then a security researcher who's going to be reviewing the output of the tools, triaging, making the tools better through feedback to the engineer, and then reporting out fixes occasionally, things like that. So it's
and just as a quick note, I think everyone suspects that things will move much faster once we have people actually full-time on it instead of the Michael's copious free time. This is not a dig on either of you guys. It's just the time.
No, it has been. I'm really looking forward to that first one, that lead PM role. We are having a public meeting next week. It's on the OpenSSF calendar. I believe it is Wednesday. You're all welcome. We're not going to have really much to announce. It's more of a getting something on the schedule where anyone, including non-OpenSSF members, can come and talk and be part of the process in kind of driving the program forward. So next week. Any questions or anything on Alpha Omega? Cool.
Yes, I have a quick question.
Yeah. I did have one. Yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry.
About the hiring, but it is a curiosity. You are proceeding alone in the hiring process, or you have people that help you? How it works? Just in few words. No.
We are so these will be Linux Foundation employees, full-time staff. So Michael Windsor and I will be on the loop, but we're trying to figure out how to do how to include the right people for a loop, which will mean more than just Michael and I. We haven't figured that out yet. Right now, it's just that initial phone screen. We don't need to figure it out in the next 2 weeks. So it'll be there. If anybody is interested in being part of that loop, though, please reach out to me. I would be very happy for help here. Throughout for all of this work.
Thank you. I was curious.
Yeah, and these are remote friendly, international friendly. Like this is, we'll work to, we want the right person, and we'll work around like logistics. Good. Okay, Google Docs. Yep, that was just that note. Metrics.
No. I actually just added to it. It's not what we were hoping. I did a little multitask. It just lets you type in Markdown, and it automatically does an autocorrect to the internal Google Docs format. It doesn't generate Markdown.
Okay.
So
all right.
I mean, there are tools to generate Markdown, but we still have that problem.
Okay, got it. All right. Probably not super. Okay. Metrics.OpenSSF.org. So I would love somebody to just take this problem and run with it. The problem in a nutshell is back when we did metrics.openssf.org, that predated, other projects have matured and have a lot more momentum behind them than the implementation that we have. So scorecard, deps.dev, I think scorecards dev or security scorecards.dev is going to be released soon, or it may be already. But the point is that we don't need to like compete and cannibalize for traffic and mind share like among ourselves. LFX Security expressed interest in being this kind of aggregation source. I have really no opinions on who should, like, where the aggregation source should be, but I know that the implementation of metrics at OpenSSF.org is probably not the right choice. So this really comes down to this is a PM exercise of connecting with LFX and scorecards and deps.dev, coming up with a plan on what the future of this is, driving toward that, and then deprecating metrics at OpenSSF.org, or repointing DNS it doesn't matter, but getting rid of the current implementation because it's not really being updated, and frankly, I just don't have the time to dedicate to it. I'm happy to hand that off to someone else. It lives in the OpenSSF Azure subscription, so it's just a VM. So I'm happy to hand over the keys and have someone else maintain it. But I think strategically the better thing is to find the right home where it will be cared for. And I don't know if that's scorecards or LFX or DEPS, but
Michael, are there any more information about this? Are those sites coming from collecting information from same source or different sources?
Yeah, so I'll kind of type it here as I'm thinking about that. So metrics.openssf.org gathers data from scorecards, critical projects, the badge program,
badge, and also security reviews.
Yeah, so it's these four. And from an order of magnitude, this is like 1 million projects. This is like 100,000. This is like what, 4,000 or so. And this is like,
I can give you the actual number, but yeah,
somewhere around there. And security reviews is like, Amir, I don't know if you have a number like 30.
We've got like 40 or 50 at least.
Yeah,
Let's say 50.
about 4,500 for the best practices badge.
Okay, so with that, like the vast majority of the data comes from scorecards. And not that the other data isn't valuable for the ones that it exists on, it's just it's very sparse, which is why scorecards might be the right place to just absorb some additional data. It completely depends on like what their vision is for what scorecards.dev should be.
Have you talked to them at all? And deps.dev may even be larger. I don't know. The problem is that they're only focused on a couple ecosystems. Well, metrics doesn't gather those. Deps does their own thing.
Yes. So I think so. Deps is kind of an independent implementation of like a crawler and stuff. And deps.dev is also a Google project and not an OpenSSF project, as far as I know right now. I thought that they said they would be amenable to like moving it over to OpenSSF. Don't quote me on that. even though this is being recorded. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. And Open Hub used to do this kind of thing, but I don't think that's a very live project. Although,
Yeah.
please, I'm not certain of that. If somebody has better information, I'd love to know it.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm hoping for is someone will be reading this and thinking right now, like, this is totally up my alley, and I would love to just drive this and make this better. This is kind of high profile, like, this is important and provides lots of value, and but it needs some attention. So, would anyone like to volunteer? And even if you volunteer, we can chat about it in more detail, and then you can like actually commit to it. So.
Okay, so I'm going to speak up slightly, but here's the thing. I'm very interested in this, but right now I'm a little overwhelmed, a problem I'm sure you appreciate. So frankly, I'd rather someone else, but if not, I can be the backstop, but it's going to take me a little while before I can get there. So I'd rather someone's run off ahead of me, but I don't want this to die off because I think this is actually really important. It's that broader question of when people are thinking about selecting a project, that's the right time to give them information to help them make the decision. And if we make it hard, the easier we can make it, the better everybody is.
Right. So maybe the question is, would anyone like to be primary with David as your backup? Subject to, time. Right. So,
if I could suggest one thing, Michael.
Go for it.
I like how someone brought up, what the sources of all these data aggregators are. I wonder if, as a first step, it might be a good idea, maybe as a group, if it's easier as a work group exercise, to try and identify, where is this data actually coming from, and that might help us maybe guide the discussion a little better.
Do you mean where is like Scorecard sourcing its data from?
Not necessarily, but like the different options of the different potential options that are aggregating data, maybe getting an idea of where that's coming from, and maybe comparing them to kind of help guide, where some of the stuff could live, or something. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I mean, so I think having that conversation, so it's really need to have conversations with dev, scorecards, LFX, security. I mean, yeah.
What by the way, where are you getting the scorecards data right now?
Right from Google's big table or big query, or big query. So it's the raw that they have a 20 gig file that they create every day. I mean, and to be clear, I'm not refreshing it because that's the part that's broken. That's hurts my soul, but that's where the data comes from. Yeah.
Okay,
Critical projects.
It's Google's big data table.
Yes. This is coming from a CSV. I think also from it's also from Google. This is from David's API. This is from
not my API. It's the best practice.
Your
but I know what you mean.
From GitHub clone of securities.
CSV also from Google?
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay. All right. So anyway, I think really probably the bigger thing here is LFX security, LFX and LFX security.
Yes.
Because I think I think the theory here is that the LF has been investing in some, data sources. Historic up to this point, it's been for LF projects, and so we need to move on. We've had a number of discussions about expanding it. There's interest, but we've got to move from that to commitment and time frames. It doesn't have to be done in a day. And frankly, I'd also want to see some license, open source licensing of some key parts. So we need to, so I think there's interest, but what the heck?
Sorry.
Some weird form.
Yeah, sorry. That was silly. I should have.
Control V.
Yeah, here we go.
Shift Control V.
I think that you might be able to get traction by intersecting with the chaos community. Maybe talk to the folks who work on Augur and Grimoire Lab.
I have in the past. In fact, I even made a couple notes in this thing. Chaos has developed some metrics. It has some tools, but things like Augur, I mean, it's a non-trivial setup for a project, so it's really great for diving in. But when you want to say, hey, I want to know about 1 million projects, that, I mean, there's nothing that says it couldn't be done, but it's a big step up from what they are usually used for.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it's not an aggregator. It's for nurturing one particular project.
Right, exactly. It's really for drilling in, and that's not a bad thing. And by the way, I think you could make the same case for the LFX and LFX security folks. But I don't think the Augur folks, at least so far, have really been interested in the large data set. I mean, I could be wrong, but at least they haven't expressed that before. Whereas I think the LFX folks are quite willing, are seriously willing to talk about that.
Good point.
So yeah, so I have talked with them in the past. My information may be old. But I'm actually on one of their risk working groups, so I do talk with some of those folks.
What's the vision for having the single site? Is it going to be single source of truth for all OpenSSF work?
I think the goal is simplicity. What we want to do, how's this? I can tell you what my use case is that I'm thinking about. It may not be others, but my use case is, a developer says, oh, I need to do X. They're going to use a search engine like Google to find, a project that does that for them, so they don't have to write all that code themselves. They'll probably find more than one such project. I want, or maybe they'll only find one. I want them to be able to get immediately a sense of, is this risky? Is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ideally, you would even integrate this into the repos. But that may, and in fact, I don't see any reason why it can't be done that the way long term. But it's even easier to integrate into repos if they don't have to do a lot of the work themselves either.
Okay.
Yeah. So, for example, here, deps.dev already has scorecard integrated in. So, as kind of looking at this as a, is there already a center of mass? Maybe deps.dev is already the center of mass, and then we say, well, do we really, like, what would, having a badge program badge, badge program gold, bronze or whatever. Here, maybe that's a reasonable integration there. And then maybe on the security reviews, it's just another, security advisories, security reviews as another section. And, it may be the kind of thing that is just incremental work on top of this. I'm also not sure what the scorecard dev site will do that's different than this.
And and the other sites will still going to, do the things they are doing today, right? They're not gonna disappear, right?
Correct. Well, the only one that I think would probably disappear is the actual metrics.openssf.org.
Mhm.
We could reroute or whatever, but functionally we would want that to be in a part of this larger thing.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, by the way, I think there's a secondary use case, which is a project wants to know how well it's doing security-wise. I think that if we focus on the developer selecting a package use case, the other one's going to follow. Because nobody likes being told that their baby is ugly. But once projects start to realize, oh, people are looking at that, they're going to want to do better at it.
Yep. I agree. And it also, is a natural aggregation point. So security insights, if that flows directly, that's great. If it goes through scorecards, well, that's great too. But either way, as we come up with more, even the chaos metrics. So we do, kind of calculate chaos sourced metrics broadly, have it available somewhere, suck it into this larger thing. Okay.
Yep.
So how about this? So we really do need an owner for this. If nobody here is either interested or has cycles or whatever to kind of take this on, next best would be to look for someone in a different group to take this on. I could put it in general. I don't want to do that until I give everybody here a chance to think about it and whatnot. So how about this? Take a couple days. If you're interested in owning this, drop me an email, ping me in Slack, whatever, and it's yours. Or at least we'll chat about it. If I don't hear anything in the next week, I'll post something out on Slack more broadly, asking to see if anybody's interested in driving this forward.
And Michael, if we can't find folks, I am very interested in this. You're just gonna need to give me a little time to find some cycles first.
which is all, but you know what? New things will come in the future too for you. So.
That's true too. But you know what? I really do believe that helping developers, well, really anybody who's thinking about using software, helping them make good decisions, and then encouraging projects to look better for that information. I think that's going to encourage a lot of great stuff. It's going to take time to get there. So I believe in the mission. How's that?
Cool. Is there anything else that anyone would like to talk about today?
If not, I have a quick brain teaser that I would love to get your feedback on.
Go for it.
Cool. So there are two resources that kind of track Log4j version downloads. One is the SonarQube dashboard or resource center. I'll put the links in the chat. And both of them, the stats are overwhelmingly bad. And I'm just wondering, what do you think that is? If you have any theories, because I have a few of my own, but I'd love to get your thoughts about that. Let me just paste the second link. So currently there are like 43% of the downloaded version from Maven Central are still 2.15 and below.
Super
and
interesting.
It is interesting, and that's according to the. I'm not sure if we have anyone from Sonotype here, but according to the writing, like below the dashboard, It's not even, it doesn't include even version 1. At first I thought maybe it's, you know, version 1.x, but it's overwhelmingly a large number, given the fact that you were 4 months into this thing. So yeah, I would love to get your thoughts if you have any theories regarding how could that be. And the first link that I posted, it's you know, from deps.dev, and it says out of 17,000 affected packages for the vulnerability, only 7,000 have a known fix. So what are those 10,000 packages that don't have a fix, and why is that, do you think?
So off the top of my head, I mean, there's a whole lot of enterprise internal code that does not get updated well. I think that's a pervasive problem. So some of it might be that. I don't know how, if Sonatype can tell, or if Maven Central can tell the difference between a top level dependency and a transitive dependency. If it's transitive, then you got to wait for somebody else, or maybe 3 or 4 levels up to update, and that's long and painful. Particularly if you're brought in. So in a lot of cases, Log4j or any other library, if it's brought in as like a 4th level dependency, is either not called at all or only called, you know, in a non-exploitable scenario. It's kind of hard to be sure there, but I know a lot of the problem in getting some things updated is like, well, it's not actually, like, it's a technical vulnerability. It's not a practical vulnerability. So maybe there's reticence for folks to rev versions where they don't see a value there. But 42% is really, if it was like 15%, I'd say, yeah, like it's kind of noise, but.
Yeah, especially given the fact that it cut so much media attention and so much, like, so yeah, I'm just wondering, it seems kind of flat also, like the line. It's not that it's slowly, you know, improving. It's just, this is the state, and it seems that it's going to stay that way. So yeah, just wondering.
I'm confused by the line of questions here. Are you surprised that people aren't updating?
Not really, but,
okay,
but to that,
good.
That's a good point. But
welcome to the awful reality.
Yeah, but to that extent, you know, with the vulnerability that you know, that was covered like everywhere, I don't know. It's alarmingly.
This is exactly the same curve that you see with Heartbleed and many other well-publicized vulnerabilities. I'll note that Equifax, the big vulnerability that they had, was in the news absolutely everywhere, and they didn't update for 2 months. And oh, by the way, they had the PII of almost every U.S. citizen at least. And
yes,
they
but
didn't care.
It is different because we are not talking about a package that is outdated. We are talking that people are actively download now a package that is vulnerable. So they choose, usually when you install a new packages, you just install the last version. We have people that now download the old version, and it is suspicious. My question is...
No. I'm confused why you think that's suspicious. This is normal behavior. Every time you do a CI check, every time that somebody installs your software where everything isn't embedded in the package, they'll download the program. So this is normal behavior.
This is true.
Yeah, this is totally normal behavior. And in fact, Sonatype wrote a paper years ago specifically about this problem. It was the first time people had suspected it for like 20 years, but they actually wrote a paper showing that this was happening. Oh, gracious, at least 10 years ago, probably more. So this is unfortunately normal behavior. Believe it or not, it's better than it used to be. I'm not saying that's good. It's just, it's slightly less awful.
Probably because of the person who maintains it lost his social security number.
Do you think there's something that can be done, like to encourage those 10,000 packages that haven't been updated to somehow, get around to it.
Yes. I'll be honest with, and I realize we're running short on time, but let me answer that one real quickly. I believe that the way to resolve this is customer visibility and letting the customers complain. So whether or not that's true, this is the hope of SBOMs, at least for software that's deployed directly. We still are going to have a problem with stuff running on a cloud server-based systems. But when at least things get downloaded, the US government in particular is basically going to start pressing in some areas and expanding. Tell me every component, every version transitively, and I better not find any vulnerable code. And the complaint that we're going to hear is not all of those things are vulnerable in context. To which the US government will say, great, well, then you can fix it faster, right? Because usually it's actually incredibly difficult to do the analysis to be confident that something isn't vulnerable. So I think that's where we're going, is basically we're going to be having forced transparency, because as long as it's hidden, they're not going to update. Once it becomes, oh, wait, I'm going to stop sending you money, then people care.
And another question is if after an version, the URL to download the old version change. Like, for example, in Debian repository, if you try, they move to a different link, the oldest version of Debian, and it is a friction for humans. So technically, you just need to edit your configuration to add the new repository for old file. And so my question is, if after n version, all the packages from Maven, but also for other repo, change the URL, for example, old.packages.npm.com to download it, to force people to or take the decision to use the old packages, so an active decision, or to move them to the new package. This can risk to break too many backend over the world, or it is a good proposal.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're at time, so that is a whole nother topic. But I think it's an important topic.
Let's
Frankly,
continue
I think
the chat next week.
Yeah, at least starting. And frankly, I'm hoping that that's something that the supply and integrity folks. But you know what? It's fine to raise that here. I'm worried about this also. There's a complication that version numbers aren't the same everywhere. So OpenSSL version 1.2.3, I mean, I'm just making up silly version numbers, I know, but is not the same from Debian as opposed to the website. Okay, a lot of distros add their own patches, so it's more complicated, but it's an important problem.
Cool.
Awesome, great conversation today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all very much. See you guys, everybody, in 2 weeks.
Excellent. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers.